Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure now to welcome Mr. Einar K. Guðfinnsson, Speaker of Alþingi, the Parliament of Iceland. He has a university degree in political science from the University of Essex and has been a permanent member of Parliament for the Independence Party since 1991. He will open the second day of the conference. Welcome, Einar.
Excellencies, Vigdís Finnbogadóttir, former President of Iceland, ladies and gentlemen, it is both my pleasure and privilege to open the second day of the International Conference celebrating the centenary of women's suffrage in Iceland. I am especially glad to see how many guests registered for the two-day conference, which is one of many events of this important year, organized by the Jubilee Committee. A special meeting was held in Alþingi, the Parliament of Iceland, on June the 19th to commemorate this jubilee, where the Parliament decided by a resolution to establish a Gender Equality Fund, allocating a substantial amount in a special fund to promote gender equality in Iceland. On the same occasion, an exhibition on women's suffrage and political participation over the 100 years was opened in the premises of the Parliament that was open for the general public. Women's representation in political and public life has changed drastically in the last decades. An important milestone was reached in 1980 when Vigdís Finnbogadóttir was elected President of the Republic, and the establishment of the Women's Party in 1983 had also a great effect. Since then, we have had women as Speaker of Parliament, Prime Minister, President of the Supreme Court, and Bishop of the Lutheran State Church. The percentage of women in the Icelandic Parliament is currently 44.4%, higher than ever before, ranking number 4 in the parliaments of the world. This is an interesting achievement, taking into consideration that no public gender quotas for MPs exist. The average representation of women in parliaments of the world, in comparison, is 22.5%, in Europe 22.9%, and in the Nordic countries 41.1%. In the last years, Icelandic women have managed to break the glass ceiling in many traditional male-dominated businesses. One of the CEOs of the major 3 banks is a woman. CEOs of the major aluminium smelters have been or are women, and women are becoming more influential in industries such as fish processing. Women's representations on boards has been growing in the last years and is currently in 37% in 150 of the biggest companies in Iceland. This is not least due to a legislation passed a few years ago, making it obligatory for companies of certain size to be represented by women as well as men. Iceland is in many ways, therefore, in forefront when it comes to women's rights, and is currently on the top of the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Index. Nevertheless, and this is important, of course, we still have many challenges unresolved to close the gender gap. I would particularly like to mention one thing which, from my point of view, is of immense importance and I have often referred to. We have not achieved equal pay for men and women. Recent and repeated surveys show that women still remain significantly distant from parity with men when it comes to wages. Gender inequality in wages remain, from my point of view, a real and unacceptable pestilence in Iceland. In reality, while the situation remains unchanged, women are in fact working for free for parts of their careers. With some simplification, we can say that women actually, therefore, are working without pay for about 1 month each year. Equal pay for equal work is an extremely fair demand and basic civil right. The theme of this second day is current threats to women's civil rights. The parliamentary resolution I mentioned previously, establishing the Gender Equality Fund, specifies that projects aimed at strengthening women's civil rights shall be eligible for grants. To give an example, projects aimed at combating domestic violence, eliminating gender inequalities in wages, encouraging gender awareness amongst the youth, and improving conditions for women in developing countries and in the Arctic area. Women's rights, including civil rights, have progressed immensely over the past decades, not least thanks to grassroots movement of women with vision that later became reality. I urge young women and young men to continue the battle and to hold the pioneers' torch up high. Let me conclude by saying that gender equality is not a question of women's rights. It is a question of basic human rights, which all must respect, irrespective of our gender, nationality, ethnic, cultural, or religious background. Thank you very much for your attention.